She didn't steal my job, she stole my entire life. And when my story appeared on that conference room screen with her name on it, everyone finally saw who the real liar was.
When I was 28, I learned that the most dangerous thief in my life had never touched my wallet. She had my surname, my mother's smile, and a polished office on the fourth floor of a Bristol branding agency where I was walking in for the interview that was supposed to change everything. By the time I found out what she had stolen, it wasn't my money or my ideas. It was my history, my struggle, and the private language of survival I had spent years trying not to speak out loud. My name is Hannah Mercer, and for most of my life, my family had one golden rule: make Amelia shine. And if Hannah has to disappear for that to happen, so be it. The strange part is that we were never poor. We lived in a neat red brick house in Redland with a paid-off mortgage, a silver Volvo on the drive, summer weekends in Cornwall, and a pantry my mother kept obsessively full. But there was always money for Amelia's private art tutor, Amelia's refurbished attic bedroom, Amelia's university flat in Leeds, Amelia's train fares to London for networking events, Amelia's polished black heels when she said first. Impressions mattered. For me, there were hand-me-down coats, supermarket ballet flats, the narrow box room above the kitchen, and my mother's favorite sentence, delivered in the same calm voice every time I wanted anything new: don't be expensive, Hannah. By 16, I had learned that being the less loved daughter came with administrative duties. I made tea when Amelia had deadlines, covered for her when she forgot birthdays, ironed school shirts, and smiled through relatives praising her confidence while calling me the quiet one, as if silence was a personality and not a survival tactic. The only thing that ever felt like mine was design. I learned it in fragments, at the back table of a closing cafe where I worked evenings, on a second-hand laptop that overheated so badly I kept a freezer pack under it, using free tutorials and trial software and the public library Wi-Fi after my shifts ended. I built logos for local florists, menus for takeaway shops on Gloucester Road, wedding invites for strangers who paid late, and social media packs for small businesses that wanted luxury branding on impossible budgets. Every time my portfolio improved, Amelia or my mother found a way to shrink it. Amelia would glance at a campaign mock-up and say, cute, but real agencies want strategic thinking. My mother would fold laundry and add, freelance suits you. Less pressure, less embarrassment, if it doesn't work out. After hearing that for years, I stopped applying for the bigger roles I was perfectly capable of getting. Then one rainy Tuesday in October, I saw an opening for a junior designer at Ashcroft and Vale Studio, a respected agency near Queen Square, known for clean campaigns and serious clients. The job description read like someone had eavesdropped on every skill I had spent 6 lonely years teaching myself. I applied in secret, sent my portfolio, and to my shock got called in for a final interview. At Sunday lunch, against my better judgment, I told my family. My father barely looked up from the roast potatoes. Amelia smiled too quickly and asked which floor the design team worked on, which I thought was an odd detail to care about. My mother stood, disappeared upstairs, and came back carrying a charcoal trouser suit in a dry cleaning cover. It smelled faintly of lavender and attic dust. Wear this, she said. No point wasting money before you have earned the job. The jacket swallowed my shoulders, the hem dragged, and the lining scratched my wrists. But I was so used to making do that I thanked her. The night before the interview, I stood in my bathroom in Southmead with hemming tape, a travel sewing kit, and 6 silver safety pins, trying to turn that suit into something that didn't make me feel borrowed. At 1 in the morning, I looked in the mirror and saw exactly what they had taught me to see: a woman asking for space she had not been trained to take. I almost emailed to cancel. Instead, I got the first bus into the city, changed in the lobby washroom, tucked the extra fabric into itself, and walked into Ashcroft and Vale with my portfolio clutched so tightly my nails left crescent marks in the folder. The interview started awkwardly because the jacket sleeve split when I reached for my sketchbook. I wanted the floor to open, but the founder, Margaret Ellison, did something I never forgot. She looked at the torn sleeve, then at me, then pressed the intercom and asked her assistant to bring one of the sample blazers kept for shoots. When it arrived, She slid it across the table and said, "Put that on and start again. I am interested in your work, not your tailoring." Something in me steadied after that. I spoke clearly. I explained my layouts, my topography choices, my client constraints, my reasoning. Margaret asked difficult questions and I answered them well. When I left, I did not know if I had the job, but for the first time in years I felt like I had occupied a room honestly. That feeling lasted less than 48 hours. The next evening, Amelia rang me while I was washing a mug and used the soft, sugary tone she saved for witnesses. She asked who interviewed me, whether they mentioned brand strategy, whether I had seen the fourth floor, whether the founder was in. The questions were too precise. After we hung up, an old college friend named Ruby messaged me, "Do you know your sister works at Ashcroft and Vale?" My stomach dropped before I even replied. Ruby sent a link to the team page. Amelia Mercer, senior brand strategist, 4 years at the company. Award shortlist mentions, conference panels, professional headshot, and beneath it was the life I had actually lived. The 2 buses from Southmead, the breakfast shifts at the hotel, the second-hand laptop, the sleepless nights teaching myself design while everyone else slept. She had taken every humiliating detail I survived and turned it into a brand story that made important people admire her. I read the paragraph 6 times, then another 10, each time waiting for my eyes to correct themselves. But it was all there, polished and weaponized. The community college course Amelia never attended. The family financial strain that never touched her. The part-time work I did through winters while she spent a semester in Barcelona posting rooftop photos. Even the line about design becoming a lifeline during difficult years at home. That was not branding copy. That was my private truth, lifted almost word for word from a personal essay I had written for a bursary application when I was 19. She had not just embellished her past. She had stolen mine. And the longer I stared at that bio, the more another detail clicked into place. My mother had known exactly what she was doing with that suit. I went very calm then. The kind of calm that usually comes right before a building catches fire. Over the next 2 days, I collected evidence like someone reconstructing a crime scene. I found the bursary essay in an old email folder, time-stamped years before Amelia joined the agency. I pulled my college enrollment letter, my pay slips from the Harbor Hotel breakfast shift, dated invoices from early freelance jobs, and portfolio files showing I had used that exact survival language in my own about page before Amelia updated hers. Ruby quietly introduced me to a production manager at the agency who confirmed Amelia was known for repeating the same self-made origin story at pitches and leadership events. Then I got the proof that turned suspicion into certainty. My mother had left the family iPad on the dining table with her messages synced. I was not snooping for curiosity anymore. I was looking for the truth I already suspected existed. There, it was in a thread between her and Amelia. 3 days before my interview, Amelia wrote, "If Hannah shows up looking polished, Margaret will remember her. Do not encourage this. Give her the old charcoal suit from the loft." My mother replied, "Already done." She never questions what I hand her. Then, a few messages later, Amelia added, "She cannot start telling people where those stories came from." I took screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself, and sat in my car for 20 minutes shaking so hard I could barely fit the keys into the ignition. The betrayal was massive, but what hurt most was how ordinary it was to them. They were not panicking. They were coordinating. He asked Margaret Ellison for a brief meeting, saying I had information relevant to her company and to my candidacy. She agreed. Perhaps because she remembered the torn sleeve, perhaps because experienced women recognize the look of someone carrying too much alone. I arrived with a folder, a timeline, printed documents, and the kind of composure that only appears when a person has run out of safer ways to be. It showed Margaret the bursary essay, the archived bio copy, the enrollment records, the invoices, and the screenshots from the messages. I explained that I was not there because Amelia got a better job than I did. I was there because my sister had built professional credibility on a counterfeit life, and my own family had actively tried to sabotage me to protect that lie. Margaret said very little while I spoke, which terrified me more than anger would have. She asked for copies of everything, thanked me, and told me not to contact anyone at the company until she had completed a formal review. The next 4 days were excruciating. My mother sent me recipes as if nothing had happened. Amelia texted a single line, "Do not be dramatic," which only confirmed she knew exactly what I had done. On Friday afternoon, Margaret called and asked me to come in at 4:30. When I arrived, the glass-walled conference room overlooking the harbor was full. Department leads, Amelia, even the managing partners from London on video. Amelia stood beside the screen in a cream blouse, arms folded, wearing the expression she reserved for minor inconveniences. Margaret began with compliance language and company values, then moved to misrepresentation in internal and public professional materials. She displayed Amelia's bio. Then she displayed my essay from years earlier. The mirrored sentences landed in the room like broken glass. Next came the enrollment letter, the work records, the archived side changes, and finally the screenshots. My mother's message appeared 12 feet wide. Already done. She never questions what I hand her. No one spoke. Amelia tried the usual maneuvers. She said our childhood memories overlapped. She said sisters influence one another. She said I was bitter because I had not built what she built. Then Margaret read aloud the line Amelia had written. She cannot start telling people where those stories came from. That was the moment the performance ended. You could see it happen physically, like theater lights cutting out. HR escorted Amelia out before the meeting was over. By Monday, she was suspended. By Thursday, she was terminated for falsification, reputational misconduct, and additional discrepancies uncovered during the investigation. It turned out the stolen backstory had not only lived on the website, she had used it in keynote introductions, leadership interviews, award submissions, and internal promotion materials. The myth of Amelia Mercer, resilient working-class creative, had helped her climb. It just happened to be assembled from the parts of my real life she found useful. The aftermath at home was uglier than the exposure. My father called to say families survive by keeping things private. My mother cried and told me I had ruined Amelia's future over a few details. I asked her whether humiliating me in that suit had also been a detail. She had no answer. When I said I wanted the truth acknowledged plainly, without excuses or euphemisms, they chose silence. So I chose distance. I stopped attending Sunday lunches. I blocked Amelia everywhere. I found out, through Margaret rather than through gossip, that Ashcroft and Vale wanted to offer me a role, not as an act of charity, she was careful to say, but because my work had earned it before any of this came to light. I accepted. I still remember my first proper morning there. Bristol was cold and bright, the harbor silver under the winter sun. I sat at a desk by the window with a company laptop, a clean notebook, and my old overheated machine tucked inside my bag like a relic from another life. Nobody introduced me as inspirational. Nobody needed my pain packaged into something elegant. They wanted the work, the judgment, the I had built when nobody was clapping. Months later, I bought myself a navy wool blazer from a shop on Park Street and had the sleeves tailored properly. It hangs straight. It fits. On difficult days, I touched a cuff and remembered that there is a difference between being given something and choosing it for yourself. People sometimes ask whether exposing Amelia was worth losing my family over. The honest answer is that I lost the fantasy of my family, not the truth of them. The truth is they had been asking me to stay small for years so Amelia could keep looking exceptional in comparison. They did not just overlook my hurt. They curated it. They repackaged it. They handed it to her like another advantage. But lies built from someone else's scars are unstable things. Eventually, they split at the seam. And when Amelia's did, everyone finally saw what I had known since childhood. She had stolen my history, but she had never had the strength it took to survive it. That part was always mine. And now, finally, so is the life I built from it.